There's a moment in every man's life when someone walks away, not with drama, not with anger, and not with some emotional outburst, but with a calm certainty that shakes the other person far more than any loud goodbye ever could. That quiet exit is powerful because it exposes a truth. The people who leave silently are often the ones who are anchored the deepest inside your mind. Their absence hits harder because their presence was never desperate. It was steady. It was whole. Most men think people remember them for what they said, what they gave, or how much effort they put in. But the truth is far simpler and far more uncomfortable. People remember the ones who carried a strength that didn't cling, a presence that didn't chase, a self-respect that didn't need applause to feel real. When someone with that level of inner calm walks away, the silence they leave behind becomes louder than any emotional outburst. Days pass, weeks pass, sometimes months, yet their name still lingers like an unfinished thought. That's the power of a man who is whole within himself. His departure feels like a shift, not an exit, and that's what makes him impossible to forget. One of the rarest forces in the modern world is a man who doesn't cling, doesn't chase, and doesn't beg for attention. In a society where everyone is loud, reactive, and constantly seeking validation, the man who remains centered within himself becomes a mystery people can't look away from. His presence hits differently, not because he tries to impress, but because he never needed anything external to feel complete. Most men exhaust themselves trying to be memorable. They talk too much. They constantly adjust themselves to be chosen. But the man who is unforgettable operates on the opposite frequency. He doesn't grasp for connection. He allows it. He doesn't prove his worth. He embodies it. And this calm, grounded posture forces people to recognize him in a way they can't fully explain. He becomes the man who can enter a room without saying a word, yet still shift the energy. The man whose silence speaks louder than other men's performance. The man whose absence feels heavier than someone else's presence. People remember him because he doesn't demand it. His self-containment radiates a rare depth, and in a world starving for authenticity, that depth becomes impossible to forget. If every word you spoke was taken away, if your looks, your charm, your jokes, your routines vanished, would your presence still leave a mark? That's the real test of a man, because unforgettable men aren't remembered for what they show. They're remembered for what they carry inside. Most people rely on noise, talking more, posting more, proving more, hoping someone notices. But the man who masters his inner world doesn't need noise. His energy walks into the room before he does, and it lingers long after he's gone. People can't always describe it, but they feel it. A calm intensity, a grounded strength, a silent confidence that doesn't need the spotlight. This is what separates him from the crowd. In a world overwhelmed by emotional oversharing, he remains selective. In a culture driven by instant reactions, he responds with intention. While others crumble during pressure or panic when ignored, he stays unmoved, and that stillness creates gravity. People might forget what you said or what you did, but they never forget how your energy made them feel. And when your presence carries depth, calm, and certainty, even your silence becomes unforgettable. Most men don't fade from memory because they're bad people. They fade because they leak their emotions everywhere they go. Every insecurity is visible. Every fear shows up in their actions. Every disappointment becomes a reaction they can't control. And once a man becomes predictable, he becomes forgettable. When a woman pulls away, most men chase. When there's silence, they panic. When tension appears, they lose their center. They rush to explain themselves, to fix everything, to seek reassurance. In doing so, they reveal something they never intended to show, that they don't have command over their own inner world. And nothing kills presence faster than emotional dependence. Why? Because predictability removes mystery. Neediness removes power. Lack of control removes respect. People remember stability, not chaos. They remember the man who could hold himself together when others fell apart. They remember the man who didn't need attention to feel valuable. They remember the man who stayed grounded when everything around him became unstable. Modern men overgive, overpursue, and overexplain because they believe effort equals connection. But true presence comes from restraint, not performance. And until a man learns to master his emotions, he will always blend into the background. The most unforgettable men aren't the loudest, the bravest, or the most charming. They're the ones who carry a rare kind of emotional discipline that's almost extinct today. This is the man who feels everything deeply but expresses selectively. He doesn't suppress his emotions, he masters them. He knows when to speak, when to stay silent, and when to walk away without letting his pride bleed all over the floor. This level of self-containment hits differently because it's so uncommon. Most men react instantly. Their emotions spill out through anger, jealousy, insecure texting, impulsive decisions, and but the self-contained man doesn't move like that. He responds only with intention, never with fear. You can't shake him. You can't provoke him. You can't pull him into chaos. And that's exactly why people remember him. When a man has this steady inner world, he becomes the anchor in every interaction. His calmness becomes a force. His restraint becomes a mystery. His silence becomes powerful instead of weak. This behavior, the ability to stay centered when everyone else collapses, separates him from thousands of men who depend on external validation for strength. A man who can't be moved becomes a man who can't be forgotten. One of the most defining traits of a man who becomes unforgettable is his ability to contain himself. This is not about suppressing emotions but mastering them, choosing what deserves his energy and what does not. A man who reacts impulsively to every emotional trigger gives away his power, making himself predictable and replaceable. In contrast, a man who practices self-containment maintains his center even when life tests him. When someone pulls away, challenges him, or provokes a reaction, he does not spiral, chase, or beg for validation. Instead, he remains grounded in who he is, displaying calmness where others show desperation. This restraint creates intrigue and respect because it is so rare in a world of instant reactions, oversharing, and emotional dependency. People notice it. Even subconsciously they sense the stability, the discipline, the quiet strength behind it. Over time, this controlled energy leaves a long-lasting imprint on everyone who interacts with him. His silence speaks more than words. His absence weighs heavier than other men's presence. Self-containment is the backbone of an unforgettable man. It's the behavior that ensures he leaves a permanent mark without needing to perform or prove anything. A man becomes unforgettable not by following the crowd, but by existing on a different level altogether through emotional independence. While most men tie their self-worth to the reactions, attention, or approval of others, the Stoic man does not. He doesn't chase validation, he doesn't over-explain, and he doesn't react to every shift in someone else's mood. This independence creates a striking contrast in a world where most people are emotionally reactive and easily influenced. When a woman, friend, or colleague tests him, distances themselves, or behaves unpredictably, he stays composed, grounded, and unshaken. That very composure signals strength and stability, qualities that draw attention without effort. People instinctively feel his presence is different. They sense he is not a man who can be manipulated or hurried, and that rarity makes him unforgettable. Emotional independence is the magnet that pulls others toward him, even in his absence. He becomes the standard by which others are measured, not because he seeks to be admired, but because his self-possession naturally commands respect. Being the exception isn't about arrogance. It's about discipline, self-mastery, and choosing to prioritize your inner world over external chaos. In a world dominated by noise, drama, and constant emotional fluctuation, a man who embodies calm becomes magnetic. Most people react immediately to every disturbance, whether it's criticism, rejection, or uncertainty. Their emotions spill into every interaction, making them predictable, exhausting, and forgettable. The Stoic man, however, does the opposite. He holds his center. He navigates tension without collapsing, engages without over-explaining, and observes without reacting impulsively. This calm is not passive, it's intentional, disciplined, and powerful. People notice it instinctively. They feel safe, steady, and anchored in his presence. In relationships, this calm creates intrigue. It draws others in because it's rare, and it gives them a sense of stability they aren't used to. When he leaves, the absence of this calm is more noticeable than the presence of anyone else's noise. It leaves an echo that others unconsciously measure against, making him unforgettable. Calmness in a chaotic environment is a silent authority. It signals mastery, strength, and self-possession. A man who masters this art doesn't need to demand respect or chase attention. His mere energy creates a gravitational pull that others feel long after he's gone. One of the most powerful tools of an unforgettable man is his absence. While many men cling, chase, or over-explain when someone pulls away. The Stoic man understands the magnetic effect of stepping back. Absence creates space for reflection, comparison, and appreciation. People notice when he's gone, not because he demanded attention, but because his presence carried weight that others cannot easily replicate. When others react impulsively to loss or distance, they highlight their dependency, making themselves forgettable. The self-contained man, however, leaves a void that others feel deeply. His silence becomes more influential than anyone else's words. His calm, disciplined energy is remembered more vividly than fleeting gestures or emotional outbursts. Absence acts like a mirror, reflecting not just his value but also the emotional immaturity or dependency of those around him. It forces them to confront what they lacked when he was present. In essence, the deliberate choice to maintain composure and not overreach transforms absence into a psychological imprint. This is why a man who masters self-containment doesn't just exist, he lingers in memory, subtly shaping the way others perceive relationships, boundaries, and emotional strength. Absence, when wielded with wisdom, is louder than presence. The ultimate trait that makes a man unforgettable is his ability to live a life rooted in purpose and inner discipline. Beyond self-containment.com and absence, a man becomes magnetic when he aligns every action with a higher standard he sets for himself. He is not swayed by external chaos, drama, or the opinions of others. Daily rituals, disciplined routines, and a commitment to personal growth strengthen his mind and refine his character. He creates energy, focus, and productivity from within, rather than seeking it in others. This inner alignment radiates outward, naturally attracting people, opportunities, and respect. Those around him sense the difference. He is consistent, grounded, and intentional in everything he does. Life does not dictate his emotions. He dictates his life with clarity and purpose. By embodying this, he leaves an imprint that goes beyond charm, looks, or words. He becomes a standard, a force, a quiet benchmark that others measure themselves against. The presence of such a man lingers long after he has left the room, and his legacy is defined not by attention sought, but by the unwavering strength, discipline, and direction he carries within himself. Purpose transforms presence into permanence.